think I can remove this thing, this scene transition. I don't even know why do I have it like view doc. Where does this go? Why do I have this open to begin with? Uh, I want to get rid of that, but I don't know where to even try. And okay, here it is. Wow, amazing change. Finally, no more transition between anything. It should be the same, right? Let me see. Yeah, it is exactly the same as before. Nothing really changed. So yeah, nice. Um, Also, good morning or well, good evening, Sarah. Um, yeah, I think I have nothing else to really do. So I don't have any other excuse to not be here, and it might as well be counted as something positive to a certain degree, I guess. It always is the possibility of doing stuff like this that I might be missing. So we will see. I I don't know. Certainly, even if I am here, dogs, what the fuck? Even if I am here, it doesn't really mean that I am going to be for 5 hours. So it always is quite sadly shorter types of stream and whatnot. It certainly isn't something that I have fully learned to use to my advantage time in that sense. Despite how much I wish to be here almost all the time, I don't really have all that time itself. So yeah, we will see anyways. It goes more along the lines of possessing that degree of consistency and whatnot rather than anything else. So yeah, um, quite happy with that. I will say I will describe it as, and I don't know what else. I don't think I have anything else to really add in particular. It simply is a process of pure patience in that sense. Pure, unfiltered patience, which pays off quite well. So yeah, anyways, it has been quite a quite a long time since the last occasion in which I say anything particularly new. What happened since that one last stream? I think it was. I probably, yeah. I remember I already made what I wanted to say on the last stream. All of that already had happened before the one previous to that one. So, what I was doing, I can't even really remember, I guess. Ah, yeah. To a certain degree, as always, I was occupied with other stuff, but it doesn't really mean that I had any kind of proper excuse to not be here. There is no completely justifying reason in that sense, and there might as well not be, but it doesn't need to be that much of a problem to know that one simply slacks, let's say. I I see it like that. At the very least, I don't know. I don't. I have recognized so far that in terms of having complete responsibility over things, we are not the best in general as whole world. We don't really tell people when they are committing something bad, when they are not acting in accordance to what they say they should be doing. So I don't think it is my proper place also to try and say, wow, it is so bad that we have missed so many days, so many streams or whatever. It is more along the lines of simply it can happen, I guess. That will be the proper definition. It can happen. It might as well happen. And there could very well be no proper reason to fight against something of that sort, no matter how hard. I we wish for things to not be like that. There is really no possibility of change in that sense, but I don't know. I I will say most of those things are simple worries rather than true useful observations or anything like that. But yeah, um, to make it more specific, basically that things happened. That is why we weren't here in the consistent manner in which I said we were going to be here. But nothing else to really say to that at the very least. And I don't know. I don't think so. It is anything kind of particular to worry so much, but I don't know. I I guess that could be the next thing. Let's say in the endless list of things that are worth talking about. Something that you discover with enough time is what can truly be called something worth worrying over, and it becomes quite hard to get to any kind of similar thing to that. With enough time, you observe that most people can't even really begin to comprehend most things, not because what you know is by itself something completely outside of the realm of understanding that the average person exists in. It doesn't even happen because of a reason like that one. You don't, most people, sorry, don't even experience stuff of that sort and deal with a majority of ideas of that kind. And when I say the majority of people, I do mean probably one in 10,000 people don't even worry about things that are completely outside of the realm of understanding of the average, I guess. It isn't like that it happens so naturally or so commonly. It is one of the most obvious things, I guess, that in life you really aren't dealing with something particularly impossible to get in any kind of degree. But it still is quite a sad reality, I will say, quite a negative one, that even if things were not so hard to comprehend, we allow so much this always existing desire to not even begin to talk about most worrisome things, and to let them be part of what is sort of life, I guess, and what is sort of normal existence, and to let those things mostly cloud what is the daily life of anybody. And suddenly, you don't really have any possibility of changing that from the most individual level if you don't even get what is the real point instead of those things. Because something quite obvious is, I even remember having talk about it with a friend. You can argue about a lot of things and you can argue in whichever way you want. It doesn't mean that you don't have that one possibility for you. It doesn't mean that you can't try to. But what it does mean, sadly, is that if you choose to argue about something that is outside of what you know, you will very rapidly discover that indeed you don't have the proper tools to get into an argument with somebody who, even if they don't realize or they don't even approximate a degree of understanding about this one particular thing, even if they don't have something like that, they can still, by the pure quality of being capable of hearing, let's say, um, you realize people don't get what is being said, sadly, because language is not so easy to have in common with so many people. And also, have a, have a nice sleep, Savannah, and thank you. Don't don't sleep too much, I guess. Don't sleep too much, but yeah. And sadly, it is too common for people to allow a lot of those things, basically. Ah, to let all of those all of those ideas be part of life, I guess. And also, good morning, son. I hope you're doing well. Um, I don't really understand it. It becomes quite an annoying thing, even because you realize that sadly, in terms of proper conversations and whatnot, just because you can realize that somebody is not truly speaking about things in a way in which everybody has the possibility of, by the mere act of listening, realizing that indeed what is being talked about by this one individual is a properly handled topic, let's say, just because of that, we decide most of the time it isn't even worth it, let's say, to pay attention, and it isn't even a good idea to try and allow such types of speech in general. And it certainly means, on one hand, you have the negative outcome of, because of that, then you can't really believe that you will change anything if you don't get to master to a certain degree what is the tool of itself on the higher scale, the tool of communication that you chose for your particular topic. But on the other hand, something that can even get proven by whoever tries to use it is something funny enough is also that you can even modify and obtain so many of those things that you might want to change if you understand that most people don't even realize if what you are saying is truly coherent or not. It simply needs to have the quality of sounding correct. And that is where another kind of problem exists, obviously. You can manipulate and you can do things in a different way simply to try and gain advantages in terms of being capable of moving, let's say like this, moving the masses to work for what you wish, just because you can make it sound good enough. And once again, sadly, most people don't even realize that this could be happening to them, but it doesn't come so easily, it doesn't happen so naturally. Not everybody is going to ever find themselves creating anything like that. And even if you do, most people who motivate others to change can't even be classified as properly good spirited individuals, I guess. And those are bigger problems than what we can ever try to fix here. As I said before, sadly, from a place of an individual, it gets very limited. You don't really have that much of a possibility of solving the whole system itself. Even if what I said the other day still holds true, it doesn't mean that your actions don't have any kind of repercussion on the rest of the universe, it doesn't even mean something like that. Quite the opposite. If you are capable of doing something correct enough for a long period of time, sufficient to let as many people realize that what you are doing is good, you will even see an impact, probably born out of this gift that is basically to signal in a certain degree without even going out of your way to properly signal things, show what might be a useful attitude or way of dealing with something. But most people don't even have that initial realization to even get that if you try now, after having created inside of you this habit of properly doing what could be minimally good for the whole initial degree of understanding that exists in the world that is around you, if you can't even work for something like that, how can you even expect to be capable of changing something so much bigger than what is the initial conception of your own future self, I guess, and your own place of existence in terms of the once again the whole system and whatnot. And it is quite a problem, I guess. But I have been still dealing with that whole idea, and I have been still trying to see if it really is something so hard to understand, or something that simply lacks a proper development and a proper way of being explained so that everybody could see how it is so important. I mean, once you are part of the crowd, let's say, you start to behold so many occasions in which this very same crowd doesn't even realize how they are doing things and how they are changing so many ways of the world which allows them to exist. And you don't even become aware of how much of a proper impact they all have, even if you are capable of recognizing those significant moments of events which can be, let's say, smelled in the air, as some people would classify it as. And it gets quite problematic because can we really, even if we even if we can simply have some kind of intuition for these things, can we really be helpful for those things in terms of allowing anything else to move into an even better state? It reaches a point in which you realize suddenly, no matter how hard one personally tries, if you don't even develop proper knowledge about these things and for these things, you might as well be content. And I don't like the idea of simply giving only the negatives, but I do start to get also how necessary it is to instill the proper degrees of fear in so many things. It is it is quite a well said conception that the actual modern man sadly lives in a world in which there are so many safety nets around them that it is almost impossible for anybody to realize how much of a necessity it is to be capable of changing those things that might as well be hurting not only them on an individual level, but even more so anything else that might be classified as negative inside of their whole sphere of of the social structure that allows them to keep existing and that will also allow those who will come after them to keep existing. And it isn't without a proper recognition of those bad things that you gain the possibility to change them. It doesn't happen out of nowhere. It doesn't become a reality, let's say, just because you wished for those things to happen. It sadly isn't our reality. It can't ever be like that, and you can you can always try, let's say, to gain some kind of advantage if some, yeah, if some degree of happiness and some degree of an easier time, let's say, gets created from that. But once again, it really doesn't justify not trying to learn. And suddenly, I guess that is still something that I am trying to deal with also. Once you dedicate yourself to the proper study of things, even if sometimes sadly the acquisition of knowledge doesn't come exactly because you are capable of formulating things by yourself, what you discover is those things that were left behind conceptually by so many people before are so easily explained that they might as well allow you to have an easier time comprehending and working with an even bigger picture than what you were capable of before. And sadly, that is the problem. I have heard too many times different people say why it can be considered something negative that people doesn't want to read. But the biggest deterrent from those who don't even spend their time doing something of that sort is that in the end, this desire to not read simply brings out the worst consequence of them all, I would say, in an individual level, and that is that you lose capacity and you lose your. It is called autarky, I think it is in English. Your your capacity to self-regulate and have your own life, basically, without worrying so much. All of those things that allow you to have a good existence and that allow you to enjoy life itself get removed because you can't even be aware of what they are. It is like something that, with enough time, I am also dumbfounded when I am made yet again aware of that is people don't even know the law, and it should be something that you should be capable of using fully to your advantage. There are people who really believe that it isn't useful in any degree to make any kind of claim that you shouldn't, let's say, report to your authorities things. It is meaningless for some people to try and make usage of the whole system that exists in order to sustain yourself, that was created in order to allow you to be and to defend your own existence from those who try to oppress it in a very huge and helpful way. Because if you were to apply yourself to the law, you will discover that there are quite a handful of things that can't fully save you. And somehow, the natural thing for those who don't even spend that much time thinking is, oh no, yeah, you know what? We should ditch the system. What? You don't even realize how much the system itself is doing already for you. You are wishing to disappear from the system. I don't know. Anyways, it isn't particularly the point to get angry at that kind of people. It is more along the lines, as I was trying to say before, of, and sadly, the consequence of people not even becoming aware of these things is the loss of power that exists inside of oneself, I will say. And it is simply the observation that gets made by realizing that indeed people in general, the whole, to not repeat so much people, humanity itself, a more proper term, humanity is more affected by these things than what we can fully realize. There are so many things happening and changing so rapidly nowadays, even that we won't have proper measurements of those changes and how society as a whole has been affected by those things probably in the next 20, 30 years. So it might as well be meaningless to try and predict what will happen in terms of that. But we can already look back at the past, at those records that we do indeed possess from what were older times, in which you gain the capacity of recognizing that certainly things have been changed and stuff is moving in a different way, and that you could even make usage of those things that are out there for you to make usage of. It, I, I don't know. I guess it is this necessity. I will classify it as to ignore how much of a useful thing it could be to have all of those memories used in anything new. But it doesn't, once again, I already explained that before, it doesn't really mean that nobody is capable of changing anything. Quite the opposite, even. One of the most surprising qualities of this is that even if you believe that humanity is so close minded to not even accept any possibility of change, what you realize is those who harness properly enough the capacity of talking about things and are capable of giving themselves a big enough audience in terms of whoever wishes to listen, harness the possibility at that moment of beginning to implant seeds of change, and even more to fully put into work what is a real possibility of moving the whole world into a different future if they are capable of seeing something like that, and if they are capable of the most important of the things, saying things correctly. We are incredibly moved simply by what we listen. It is in a different kind of line of a story that you realize once you watch enough. There are so many people who will do so much, as much as they can, basically, to find somebody who's capable of telling them every single thing that they need. And it is simply a conversation, something that gets said, and we value that so much. We can be convinced that we have found a proper person in our life if they say the correct thing to us. We are so moved by what has become the language that we have made whole structures around it, certainly. And I don't know, I wouldn't say all of that is too much of an embracement of the language. We made something quite good in that sense. We were capable of finally creating something that allowed an even faster creation. I wanted even in this whole conversation of how language gets made and whatnot that we have been having for so long in school since this new semester basically. I have wanted even to ask. I'm pretty sure to a certain degree the capacity of changing the world also was made because language itself is an ever evolving creature that allows those who can properly use it to get an even better as I said before, an even better picture, an even more comprehensible one of the world that is around them. Once you can denominate things by what they are, and once you gain the possibility of properly attributing to them the qualities that they might as well need, so that you could see all of those things in a better perspective, you have already gained, let's say, the final tool. You just need to keep using that and to keep expanding upon what you already know, but there is no way in which you can construct yeah, you can construct knowledge outside of language in the present world, and that doesn't mean something bad. That it shouldn't be in any kind of way something negative. It simply is the nature of how it works and how it allows so many different degrees of organization to happen. And that was the original point of, and gladly enough, whoever is capable of using it in a sufficiently complex manner, even if they realize to some degree that whoever might be listening could not get everything that gets said, even if that is a reality, you can still start to work on the change that you wish so much to happen and that you have realized will be so helpful for anybody. And I don't know, I guess that's kind of the final worry, that to some degree, all of these negative things get ignored and all of these negative things get so much acceptance from the normal world that trying to go against any of those normal structures, I guess, or normalized structures would be classified as negative, but I wouldn't say something like that is inherently bad or is by itself just because of what it means and what it obviously becomes to try and assume such a responsibility. Not just because of that, you will lose the possibility of expanding yourself in any kind of degree or reaching, once again, any good future. It just happens that the negativity that all of those influences have in the world has been quite accepted, which that one thing is what I don't really like. I don't know if it is in any kind of degree useful to be so acceptant of a hopeless way of seeing the world. I don't believe it's the very same thing as, let's say, yeah, I want to pick my words properly because it might as well sound too strong, but I certainly see it that way. It might as well be like having depression. If you have depression, you can't even realize that what you are always thinking about will keep coming back to haunt you because the way in which you think about the world is certainly tainted with the negativity that you possess. If you allow all of those negative structures to keep existing in the world in which you inhabit, it will, as an unavoidable consequence, keep you down. And that is what I would try to say. Just like depression, it can't in any kind of way become some sort of tool that lets you enjoy an even better, an even bigger reality or something like that. You can't gain such things just because you want all of that. I don't know. I don't see how it can be called useful to to believe that such things are the norm. I Yeah, it is always that constant battle even of asking even, or at the very least, the question of, well, this might as well have been sustained, has been so far accepted because we believe it's good. We suppose that, but I am not so sure. I would say I we have inserted quite a lot of things in life. We have allowed ourselves to have quite a handful of influences, and we have given to yeah, to us basically a lot of things that we never needed, and we have even believed that they were going to be beneficial to some degree, but it doesn't happen like that. It mostly it doesn't bring any kind of benefit to anybody. But I guess, yeah, the most the most useful way to see it is always it is better the devil I know than the one I don't know. Something like that goes the saying of you will probably choose something that you already know is bad, even if you know it is bad, because you already at the very least have the capacity of accepting, of realizing, of properly seeing what the bad things that it will bring to your life are. You aren't going to change it in any kind of way for something completely outside of your boundaries, completely outside of what you know. But I guess that is part of the responsibility of living, that you can show others what might be, once again, into this whole analogy, a lesser bad. Something that you yourself have discovered and can show the rest is not so damaging, I will say. And yeah, I don't think it has simply to deal with the negativity or whatnot. It is more along the lines of, and perhaps whoever tries to do something like that will realize that indeed you gain quite a lot of tools by doing that. After all, I don't know. I suppose it is something normal. It is something that shouldn't need to be discussed. How how much of a good thing it is to try and do good for the whole world. It shouldn't be something that needs to be explained. At the very least, in my way of seeing it, I don't believe it works like that. But what it certainly does is recognize, in my case, certainly, that, yeah, most people don't really care, I guess. There isn't a good way to say it. Most people don't really care about it. I mean, I think it is quite a problem, even. To abandon so much the responsibility that you have not only for yourself, but for everything that exists around you has become also one of those habits that were created in the new world. I, instead of the whole world of things that I needed to look into, I have something that talks about how is it that we have no more what we can classify as great minds and geniuses of our time. we have stopped creating those, let's say, and it's quite understandable. Once you begin to observe that, it is a question that seems very obvious, because after all, the whole massification of everything, the whole way in which now can now everyone can have everything that everyone else might have in the palm of their hands means at the same time that it is quite impossible for anybody to gain truly anything, because we are implying that everybody could have something without realizing, without properly appreciating how much of a necessity we truly have towards developing things that are not so easy to gain. And sadly, we are creating even tools like, I will say, or different ways of organizing the information. It doesn't simply contain artificial intelligence. It isn't about an attack to something like that. It is more along the lines of the whole more life interfering things. All of that technology which does impact you, that makes you at the end of the day believe that you might as well be not so different to anybody else, in terms of maybe if you tried hard enough, you could also become like the next, I don't know, whatever. When in reality, most people are not only not willing to try and be like that, but also are not even going to try and solve any of those things in any useful manner, are not even going to try and let change happen in a meaningful way. It has become quite a sad thing, I will say, that in this whole new era, there is so much of a belief about how we are not so different without realizing that even if we were to not be so different, what makes you believe that by not using your capacities, you are not becoming different to the rest? And not simply different, you are not becoming less than the rest. It is, yeah, I don't think I have a better way to say it so far. But sadly, if you were to properly watch the world, nowadays you will realize something quite horrible, and that is, in front of you, if you go out, what you have is infinite potential. An individual is a being with so much capacities to change anything that they might as well be called infinite potential. And you have so many of those existing without any kind of desire to even attempt change. You allow all of those things to be the norm. Somehow it has become even the accepted thing that you shouldn't risk, because it is somehow a risk, your existence for the pursuit of anything. It has become the norm that having great aspirations might as well be something negative and something bad. I guess it doesn't really change anything to blame any one particular structure, but the different types of depression that we have had, that we are capable of observing, everybody. You can observe how any kind of country has, since the last, I will say probably 124 years, basically since the two major wars that happened in the world, since those times, I will say, it has been kind of declining the rate of of proper advancement of the individual. As a whole, we are reaching new frontiers in so many ways that it is quite amazing. It doesn't mean that we are not advancing in any kind of way, but I wouldn't want, if I had to choose, I wouldn't want to live in the present compared to what is a better future or a better past, even, in which you can realize that indeed life is better once you have something meaningful to pursue and once you can go for things that are useful not just for your tiny existence, for your very limited existence. And sadly, we have been fully removed, I will say, from the capacity of wishing for anything like that. I I have discovered, and it is one of the biggest influences, I guess, in this whole group of readings, somebody who describes how this was going to happen, and it is quite sad to see big influential thinkers like that go to waste because it kind of traces back to what I mentioned before. Sadly, what gets said can be so easily manipulated also. If people don't even realize what is really the meaning of what is happening, of what is being conveyed, you who possesses the capacity also of creating something don't even need to spend your time making something up. You just need to twist it in the proper directions so that it becomes a completely new thing by itself. And sadly, the desire to have a better vision of ourselves, the interest of not being so negative with what is the individual, with what is us in the most singular level, has been winning, I will say, and it has been succeeding in quite a lot of manners. But I wouldn't say just because of that it is something bad. We I would embrace I would embrace the craziest side of the mind, the one that makes hope and the one that allows you to believe that there might come a tomorrow, even if you don't have any kind of proper certainty about those things. That side tells the mind who observes such ideas that, but we might still have some time to change it. And that is what feels the best and what is the most rewarding experience, I guess. Because the rest itself could never become something good, beneficial, or truly useful for us. But as long as we can create, we can try, and we can finally begin to believe in what could become a potentially better universe of existence in which we might be contained, as long as we have something like that happening, I think it is going to be worth it. I will say. But I don't really know. I guess sadly, it isn't that much of a normal thing, even nowadays, to have so it simply is a wish. But yeah, basically that, I guess that has been in a very short manner what I have been thinking about for the past, I guess, weeks or so. Yeah, I got out of my system like four, five, six different ideas that I wanted to talk about at some point. So I know I said it maybe too much in some areas. Unavoidably, a lot of words, but that is basically it. That's the whole idea that I have to begin with. I guess the most appropriate thing will be I want to drink something, so give me a second. That is what I want to do. I will drink something, and also I want to see. I I want to restart the captions because I'm pretty sure that is lagging everything. I turned them off, and now if I talk, okay, yeah. If I talk right now, there is no lag. The captions don't ask me why they lag every single thing, and they are gone. Okay, we're going to give them a second. I'm going to drink something. And, when I'm when I am finally back, we will see what happens. It will really not take that much. I don't know. I am not even leaving, but just to not have nothing happening. Be right back, I guess. Okay. So seeing this, I guess something quite weird is that you probably can realize something short. These captions have a memory leak or something of the sort because they started to lag more and more the more they were being used. So we will see. Maybe if I simply restart the captions instead of needing to restart OBS as a whole, it will work better. We will see. Anyways, turning them back. Let's see. Hello. Are they? Yeah. Okay. They are working yet again. And they are, yes, so far, one side they are not lying, but they will. How much time did we take? 50 minutes. Okay. At around 50 minutes, they already start to get incredibly laggy. No, wait. Yeah, they are getting yet again laggy. I spoke too soon, I guess. I I claimed victory before I realized that they didn't really get fixed. Memory, I don't know. I am not a programmer. I don't even know what is the real memory leak that makes everything lag. Anyways, what an incredible annoying thing. Anyways, completely. Anyways, I guess stuff like that can happen and might as well happen. So, with something else in mind, I I wanted simply to say, moving on to something else. I continuing with kind of what I said before. I have been observing, and it has become quite a wonderful thing to learn. Finally, I can properly say it. I had been this. this whole experience of becoming, in any kind of degree, somebody who finally seeks out a little bit more knowledge and whatnot, didn't begin not so intensely with any kind of pursuit of knowledge or wisdom or anything of that sort. It didn't begin, sorry, with anything like that. And I never would have thought it was going to finish like it what it has become right now, basically. But inside of that, inside of the whole experience of searching and using knowledge to one's advantage, something quite wonderful has been also that indeed this whole net of ideas has quite a huge impact on life and has quite a yeah, quite a sensible way of applying. I I think I never would have stayed so convinced when I, at the very least, when I began this adventure, let's say, that maybe this was going to be anything kind of beneficial to myself, let's say, or I don't simply mean it as to wow, it is so for me. Nobody else will have something like that. No, 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 no. The real point is basically, and I am pretty sure it can happen on anybody's life. I have discovered that I don't feel like I am in any kind of degree particular or special because of those things. It is quite a natural event that despite any other problem, despite any other kind of interest, life gives you quite a lot of opportunities to display not only what you know and what you wish to know, but also display more and more ways of using purposefully what you have harnessed so that the rest of your life becomes something even easier, let's say. And not meaning that as something so abstract, I guess it will be a proper explanation. It doesn't refer to something so abstract. I am not trying to refer to anything of that sort. I don't think it will be your reality that X amount of years or anything like that, the world will be so different or whatever. It simply is that one doesn't believe, certainly. Dancing can be so good. And indeed, this type of reflection, I would say, this type of proper observation, the degree or group of observations made from life is quite a nice one. I will classify it as. I don't know if it is something bad or if it is something that can be indeed called a bad influence. I don't see it as something like that. It simply happens that kind of going back to what I did mention, sadly most people don't even realize that they needed to discover the world. The world the world is. That's the proper way of saying it. Besides any other kind of declaration that I might make in terms of the world and whatnot, the only proper one is the world is nothing else. Because the world itself is, you need to be capable of going towards it and you need to be capable of experiencing things that you want inside of it by your own hands. It won't happen that you're going to be gifted so many things that you're going to get incredibly lucky. One of the worst things even to believe is that you will get lucky out of nowhere, that you will become the next fortunate one. Most, if not almost, every single thing that isn't luck based, every single thing that isn't luck based is indeed something that you should be capable of pursuing in your life by yourself with your own hands and nothing else. It doesn't need to be something so incredibly impossible of believing as something necessary. It gives you no advantage to be like that, and it gives you no proper satisfaction to give up so much on your own self agency, I think it is. But I think I think there, without trying to blame any particular thing, okay, let's say like this. There is such an immediate world, there is so much gratification in the present that those things which do take quite a lot of time, like the proper development of mental structures around the world, around what we call the world, those things that are lengthy by nature are themselves very hard to find as something very well talked about, because in comparison, on the other hand, you have a lot of opportunities to find the same, if not even higher degrees of satisfaction from simpler things, from a world which has less effort from you and a lot more satisfaction for you. There, it shouldn't be something so hard to understand, even if I am not mentioning anything particular, that we have all of this entertainment, all of these biases, all of these things, basically, which you can use your whole life in, which do feel quite good, but they don't really make a life. They don't really give a life itself some kind of way of being or anything like that, just because you try to make it seem sensible enough or something of the sort. It doesn't happen in that way. It doesn't become something of that nature just by being like that. It it can indeed be an even better thing once you give yourself. I will say probably, as somebody who very barely dedicates their own time to that, I think in 3 months or less, you can completely change how you see the world, how you work inside of the world. If you were to dedicate yourself to the pursuit of knowledge properly, and if you were to read something, or not one thing, if you were to read book after book, and if you were to keep learning, it is this is what I tried to refer to before. The creation of proper mental structures doesn't happen overnight. You need to marinate a lot of ideas in a period of days, weeks, or months, and those things don't fully come into nature if you don't even begin with the proper assimilation of knowledge that is laid in front of you by those who already created it for you, let's say. It is the very same, and that is what I was trying to refer to this whole system of justice, this system that we find ourselves living in, the world itself entirely. is a system that is incredibly complex, not because it is harder to get any of the individual parts, but because it is composed of a lot of things. That is the most basic type of definition. A lot of simpler things make up an even more heavily arranged evolution of that. In that very same definition, that the society in which we live is complex based merely on how there are so many things at play at any given moment that you might as well lose your mind even if you try to measure all of them at the same time, I will say. And I don't know, I don't see why even saying something like that will be negative. I quite dislike even the possibility, the idea, the acceptance of how negative it might be to give people some beginnings of faith in that sense. You can't harness the whole world, let's say, without first being capable of, at the very least, beginning to comprehend what makes you be what you are. And I, I don't know. I can say personally, I'm quite happy with the place that I found myself in after so much thinking in that sense. And I think it can happen in the very same way for anybody who applies themselves to that. I don't think, if you think hard enough, you will reach a worse conclusion than this one. It doesn't happen that the world becomes an even worse place if you were to make the same journey. That's kind of the whole point, even. If sadly, I don't even know if it is going to be useful or not to compile every kind of thing that I have discovered and whatnot. I don't think it works like that. Um, but what I can say is probably if you get yourself towards any kind of knowledge that is useful, you will learn from there a lot of things that will indeed satisfy you. And also, um, good evening, good morning, good night, even Crespian. I hope you're doing well. Welcome. We are finally back. I guess we are trying to regain consistency after being. Yeah, I tried to think about it at the beginning. I don't even know why it took me so long to be here. Eh, but yeah, trying to gain that back basically. So here we are, just talking about the nature of learning. I will say the nature of thinking and whatnot. That whole thing. And yeah, the final point that I was trying to make was something along the lines of I guess certainly, even if it isn't the very same path that we take when we learn, when we read things, when we discover about this world, anything, even if it isn't the very same one, it still can be classified as something quite amazing because it has inside of it a handful of essential truths, let's say, that almost anybody wishes to share with the rest. Like, I think it wouldn't be a crazy proposition even to say something along the lines of, and yeah, you see it as something good to talk about how beneficial it is to have a good life. It doesn't happen like that, that anybody who says life can be good is seen as somebody crazy. Something crazy, probably, and not probably, something that you can realize as something crazy is indeed how this whole world seems to predicate so much this idea of life is meaningless or something along those lines. Certainly, that is bad, and that is something that we have always tried to fight against. It isn't even beneficial to accept it, to let it be so much part of this world, but it isn't only about being worried or not by these things, it is more about being capable of working on it. And I guess most people don't even realize that they need to let those things happen. And I don't know, I feel like sadly, even if we say that it doesn't happen like that, we get too swayed by the outside. That I think is the real problem. It is, and I don't even know why. I don't even have, as of right now, a proper explanation for that. I guess, sadly, we live in a world in which it is fine to be so much submerged with the rest, where it is good for you to be yet another sheep of the herd, as they will classify it as, and where you don't need to believe that you could be something good by yourself. Not that you need to abandon society and no, 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 no. The idea simply is you can believe that good things might come even if you are alone. That is the point. And we are, since so long ago, shaming people who tries to go that way, that an unavoidable consequence of not being capable of developing by yourself out of that is sadly you are losing your proper privileges of reaching an even higher degree of ideas and an even bigger space playfield. I will classify it as, even because it is something positive, of concepts in which you can freely live. And sadly, you see it happening in so many ways, in so many areas, and in with so many people that you don't even know. I personally, I'd say you, I personally don't even know why it happens like that. Why it is such an accepted thing. Because on the other hand, it isn't like there is nobody like that in the world. You have the gift of your vision allows you to behold those who can indeed work towards this very same path and work towards living in this very same reality. And if you see that, you don't need to think that much about, wow, this seems to be something good. And this will probably be something that even I myself would want to have in my life. It isn't anything revolutionary to say something like that. It isn't even something something surprising or something amazing to illustrate it that way. It is not a revelation once again. It is the most ordinary idea that you can have. Yet we portray it somehow as something bad or something that maybe if you were to try to pursue, you will not truly find satisfying. I guess I don't know. This it feels quite insulting. On the other side, it feels not not a little bit. It is certainly insulting to say the reality of the whole mass has become that we have accepted depression as a natural state of ourselves. That is why, naturally, such depressing ways of seeing life had become so much something normal. And on one hand, once again, the problem is saying something like that feels quite horrible. Whenever you find yourself in a depressive state, the least you want to think about is how much everything else also contributes to that. But I don't think I can properly point my finger towards anything else when it comes to how so much everyone has normalized not even trying to get out of said state. It is kind of tracing back. It is the normality for us to not even work on those things. It is the good thing to not change and the good thing to not believe that change is good. Why will you even begin to think something like that after all if you are not even aware of the possibly good influences that it might have in your life? Why would you see it that way? We don't have, even if we are beings capable of thinking, we don't have that many blessings in terms of out of nowhere being capable of completely extracting ourselves from what is our own life. Even if you can empathize with others, you can't abandon what was your own circumstances and become exactly what you're observing in order to, wow, now I fully get what they are trying to talk about. No, it doesn't happen like that. You don't fully become somebody else and then make the proper judgment of their character. Even if you're an amazing empathizer, as I said before, even if that happens, you don't get to be someone else for a second to change situations. But sadly, we live in a world in which you assume that it is natural and it is almost the expected thing to happen, and it certainly doesn't work that way. You simply can going back to this whole sea of ideas and maps of knowledge that can be constructed by understanding more and more. You experience things, and once you experience something, you get the possibility of also tracing with the rest how all of these things can be traced back to your own experiences, and you become capable of properly empathizing with others because you had already found yourself in a similar place, and you can assume that what they are talking about assimilates what you said you have seen, or what you say you have experienced, or at best you can make an even worse scenario in your mind of something that happened to you in order to find how that is somehow similar to what others are saying. That can happen that way, but it isn't the normal thing, and it isn't even a requirement, I will say. Sadly, even we have accepted that it is a rare condition, or not condition as something bad, it's a rare quality in human beings to be a properly empathic person, somebody who can fully get what you are telling them in terms of observing others. And I don't know, I feel like it goes back to what I was trying to say before. These things, all of these things, are part of a world in which you somehow truly accept a depressing reality, and Even with such conditions as those described before, you still can't reasonably see yourself as something quite capable. And not that is even the problem. It isn't even that it makes sense to say quite. A human itself isn't, in any kind of extension, quite capable of something. It is surprising how good can one single individual become at what they say they think so much about and what they dedicate their lives to. And that is, by nature, one of the most wonderful gifts to have. I don't think it is that easy to get how much you live in an era in which you have the possibility of doing what you say you wish. And I remember, here it finally comes into play. I remember even having this talk with a friend of, have you heard about this concept of the iron cage? Don't you think we live in something like that? And I don't think you really stop to think if you say, yeah, we live certainly in an imitation of the iron cage. We are living in a world in which everything is set up so that you can't progress. Are you really going to not become a responsible being? Are you really going to blame every other thing? I do not say it from a side of compassion. I am certainly, when I am speaking right now, I don't have that light of love, let's say, that allows you to say something like that. I am simply repeating what I told him basically in a different way so that it gets understandable. It becomes understandable. You can't even begin to say something like that. It is a completely toxic way of seeing life. If you believe that so many things are really there to stop you from achieving what you wish, you don't realize how you even have the capacity of wishing. You even have the possibility of seeing something good in your mind and trying to pursue that in your real life. You don't even realize how much you can develop yourself in so many ways, in so many areas, in so many things, in so many fields, simply because you tried to do that and simply because you became capable of finding a proper meaning in your actions. And you're going to say that the whole system is against you? You believe that is something sensible to do? Everything else has to blame, but you? You gain something by really becoming such a despicable being that is so against your own self almost? I think that is kind of the real problem with those ways of envisioning things. That, oh yeah, we have this one example, this one concept, we are going to take it to the extreme. Now, everybody lives in such conditions, and everybody is dealing with these problems. What? Are you really saying something like that? Are you really giving up so much of your own life just because of what you saw once? Are you not even realizing what is your life in the end? Are you that is also what I mean when I say that it is a depressing reality, a depressing society, that it has become the norm to be so faithless, so incapable of believing in anything great, in anything beyond yourself. That is the real problem. That it is common for that to happen, and that is it is the norm to see others say that, oh yeah, I I want to give up and I want to not continue in anything else that I wish to do in my life. Not that it doesn't make sense, but that it is okay to say, yeah, you make complete sense, and I will try nothing out of myself to try and change that. What? it, it, it- that is the the wonderful thing, the wonderful observation from all of those things, it is once again this, and the moment in which you said something like that, is that somebody simply said, "Oh, okay, it makes sense. I understand your proposition. Go ahead." What? It I don't know. I guess it kind of is something else, but yeah. At the very same time, at the very least, you have the capacity of gaining awareness of those realities, and you have the capacity of aspiring, as it says the word, to something else and believing in something better instead of being so destroyed and so held down by all. You can realize that the world is quite a wonderful place to live in, I guess, but it isn't that a normal. Not because it is bad, I don't say it from that side, but rather because it is hard, and sadly, that I guess we have certainly done. What feels bad is not so easily pursued in life, so impossible to have any kind of aspiration of that sort. I guess I don't I don't think it is that much of a problem. I, I simply hope it becomes an awareness that the rest of the world can properly have. That is the real problem. That we can spend infinite amount of time. There isn't even a necessity for a number, infinite amount of time here. But at the same time, it doesn't really mean anything if it isn't understandable. What is the real point of? Yeah, you can quite indeed change things, and you can quite indeed aspire, and you can quite indeed see the world as something less depressing. But I guess I don't know. I wouldn't say it is a battle that has been lost since the beginning or something like that. It isn't even close to being like that. Even life is not such a little place, and there are some. That's even the most wonderful thing. There are some souls which fight so incredibly hard and with such a passion for what they wish that. Certainly, observing all of that and being capable of also helping those things is just by itself already a motivating enough factor in many ways. And I wouldn't say people don't wish to help in those things. Maybe, as always, we don't wish to be the ones who help the most. It's it is quite hard to harness all the responsibility that comes with being the most helpful individual in any kind of situation. But at the very least, you have the capacity of aiding, and you have the capacity of giving a little bit of yourself to those devotions of life that some have, I guess, those objectives. And I don't know, I would say yeah, because it also has that aftertaste in my mouth. I don't mean wow, because there is this whole saying of if you don't have something that you are fighting for in life, you're going to be fighting for somebody else. No, I don't mean in a sense, in a kind of discreet way. Wow, you know what? You should, if you don't have something good to fight for, at the very least, you should fight for somebody else. You should really do that. No. That isn't the meaning. I can see it coming. This whole proposition of, wow, here I tried to say that you shouldn't see yourself as something capable of being good and seeing yourself as something that can do anything good by yourself. Therefore, as the incredibly useless being that you are in your own life, you should devote yourself to what others have as objectives. No, what I tried to mean is, and while you pursue what you wish, not only it costs nothing, it even is fulfilling to help others. That is the real thing. That is the real message of what I tried to say. That indeed, there is quite a high degree of satisfaction found even in giving something to others while having your own thing, even because it doesn't mean that you abandon your whole life in the pursuit of something that someone else has proposed. I do not think it it is that good to abandon your own convictions. I do not mean also that you should in no way observe what you say you believe is good. I would go as far as to propose that certainly it is quite a necessity, that is quite a useful necessity, that if you have the possibility of beholding, of watching what you are, and giving yourself enough time to try and see if what you say is going to be good, can truly be something good or not. If you do something like that, then you are certainly working a lot towards the proper cause. And if you can, after enough observation, even go as far as to say that not only it might be good, it is indeed good, and it should be sustained, that is indeed the most wonderful thing. And I mean, I don't know, sadly, I think I kind of mentioned that before today, in terms of, and sadly, there are a lot of ways in which that can happen, but you need to learn. The world is open, but it doesn't mean that it will give you anything that you wish simply because you say it once. I don't think, not that I don't think, and wow, I am waiting here to be proven wrong. No, you go out in life and you observe. There is nobody who goes out there and just because they say once, I want to become rich, they become rich. It doesn't happen like that. Not simply because you have a wish, it will become true. You need to be capable of working towards what you say that you are trying to get. And sadly, that is kind of the commodity of the modern era, that you don't realize sometimes what you should be doing. But albeit consciously you don't. Most of the time, the path has already been laid by those who came before us. And it isn't going to change that much. Even if you assume that it might as well not take that much time, it might it might as well not be that rewarding. There is no proposition that you can make that will change the actual state of how that works. If you need to put in the time, if you need to make the proper arrangements, if you need to change things, good luck trying to obtain what you wish without doing so. it won't happen. But I guess, sadly, there is no other way for anybody to discover that for you. So yeah, I guess the meaning is also going back to that. Um, Once you can find something meaningful, once you can work for with that, in that, you will find indeed that there was quite a lot to gain. And sadly, what is also common is that not that many people can even begin to realize how any of those things is indeed a possibility, I guess. But just by beginning to believe in something of that nature, you gain the possibility of later on even more, harnessing, comprehending, wishing, and finally, even more, starting to realize and aim towards what you say is beneficial. And I guess that is kind of a different idea also. But since we are here, I don't think it will do that much damage to mention that, because that, yeah, I guess sadly, it is one of the main questions that when you hear others talk about this, you hear repeated enough, like, and how do you even know if what you think, if what you wish to bring to reality is going to be that good? There are a lot of ways to see that. There are a lot of ways in which you might respond to this question for yourself. But the only proper response that I take when it comes to these things is you can only know if it is good once you have made it a reality and once you have the results of what you tried or you did create. Once that happened, you will have the evidence of how it was used, if it was used correctly, and if in the way in which was used satisfies your way of having believed in what you worked so much for. No other kind of explanation will really satisfy you, because we can have infinite ideas about these things and we can have a thousand different ways of picturing every single thing that has to deal with how something might or might not be. But only the proper results are going to be what satisfies the most the curiosity that we have in terms of, wow, am I going to really be important? Is my tiny piece of help to society going to be in any kind of way good? I think so. I might not think so, but I can only discover that once it happens. And I can only make it happen if I work on that. I can't live only in the world of ideas, sadly. I can't only experience things based on what I think about. I need to be capable of seeing them by myself, for myself, because I know that there is something worth pursuing, let's say, and if I make it, when I make it, I will have those evidences that will fully solve my question. As long as, at the very least, the initial way of picturing it is good, everything else might as well be your proper evidence. But without the evidence itself, no proper response can be given, and no other result is going to really be meaningful. And I am, yeah, I will say, I'm not going to lie in that sense. It is quite dissatisfying to hear so many people nowadays even say, oh yeah, and I didn't need to worry so much. Once I had this one conversation with my friend, I realized how meaningless it was. What? If what you are proposing is really good, how can you give up so easily? That's a real question. That's something that is quite sad to hear so much, even. But yeah, that isn't the point. I guess I am not here to judge at the very least today, so that isn't the point. That is beyond the idea itself. The point was, once again, results are the only evidence. And the only evidence that matters is observing things happen. No other way of thinking out your ideas will truly give you what you wish, no matter how hard you think. Even if you are the best thinker, you can't predict the life of 1,000 or 1,000,000 human beings unfolding in front of you. So yeah, I guess do instead of worrying so much. That's the final message basically. That's what I tried to say in so many ways. Do. Don't let the worry kill you. It isn't in any kind of way beneficial for anybody. I, life shows you that basically. Worrying is indeed a horrible thing, a horribly harmful thing. Ah, but yeah, I guess that is existing. That is this whole thing of experiencing life and whatnot. That is all of this, and that is the the enjoy the enjoyment of this. Ah, but I don't know. I guess with enough given time, it all makes sense. Even if right now it doesn't make sense, with enough given time, you think hard enough about it and it makes sense. I mean, that's that's something wonderful about life, and that's something wonderful about being rational. That you can keep thinking about what doesn't make sense until you can make it make sense. Even if nothing of what I said so far seemed understandable in the present moment, you can discover for yourself, you can learn, and you can come here later on and say, what the fuck? There was nothing understandable here. Can you please shut up? Or say, oh wow, this guy had any minimal idea about something, and I can use these minimal pieces of understanding that he left to properly make something useful out of that. He didn't really say anything, but because I have realized that there was something there, I can move from here onwards with the rest of my existence, I guess. I and that is once again the wonderful thing of being alive. Nothing else is that good, and nothing else is that nice. Your capacity to think is certainly one of, if not the biggest thing to have, and to not make it so much of an important, unappreciable thing is quite a dishonor to everything that came before you. Let's say, because it certainly is quite a wonderful opportunity to observe so many things. I will say nothing else like that makes you work, makes you feel alive. I will say, but certainly that is too much of a subjective view. So, anyways, I have talked for too much. I want to go and eat something for real this time. I only have the total of one apple, and that isn't food. I need to go and eat something. I'm hungry. Hungry. No, yeah, I need to go and taste something real this time. So thanks for being here. I guess sometimes sometimes I feel like it will be easier to simply close, but I know I feel, let's say like this, it isn't properly useful to do it like that. So let's write someone. No, no, simply closing OES, not simply living like that. So yeah, um, let me come here. Let me also Sun is playing Roblox. We can write Sun. We could even knock. I am not going to use this feature. Thank you, but I don't like this feature. I am simply going to write it. Yeah, I don't like that feature. Sorry, Twitch. You didn't get me interested in that. Anyways, let me see. Ah, he's playing this kind of shooter game. This is quality. Let's let's ride into sun. There it is. He isn't even in the Roblox category. This is. anyways, people. As always, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for lurking. Thanks for watching the bot. Thanks for everything. Whenever we can, we're going to get back here. Uh, let's say like this, because making promises and not fulfilling them feels bad. Tomorrow, probably tomorrow, probably tomorrow we'll be here if everything goes right. Um, so, anyways, until then, and even if it doesn't happen, even if we never find ourselves here back again, thanks for being here, thanks for watching, thanks for everything. Remember, people, remember to take care of yourself, remember to hydrate, remember to be responsible. And yeah, I don't want to miss it. Thank you, Crespian, and thank you, San, for being here. Very much thankful for having anybody who we can. And yeah, as I said before, have a nice one. Be happy. Be meaningful. Do things. Experience life. Don't let life only experience you, let's say. But yeah, thanks. And until the next one. Anyways, most important, we are leaving, we are riding, we are going into San Albiones, who is playing Roblox. Ah. Roblox. Ah.